Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. We have quite the conversation tonight. It's going to be educational, playful, fun. By the end of it, you may be taking your shirts off and stimulating yourself, or just sneaking your hand up there and checking things out. And feel free, if you're not driving or operating any heavy machinery while listening to this show, feel free to feel yourself up. I love getting reports about that. Hey, by the way, I was feeling myself up while listening to your show. Fantastic. I love that people are that turned on and willing to be that turned on. So what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about something that we all have. We all have nipples. What? It's true. We all have nipples. Some people really love nipple play and some people really don't. And this one goes a shout out to the ones who love nipple play. And I'm one of those. So not everybody's like up on the nipple play. And there are a lot of people who don't even realize they like it because they've only had it a few ways. And so it's like, I didn't really like that. So you've kind of shut the door to nipple play because you're thinking that's the end all and be all to nipple play. But no, there's like a bajillion ways to play with nipples to create stimulation and joy and fun. And why do I talk about this stuff? Well, for one thing, I'm a sex and intimacy coach, and I love talking about sex and intimacy. So that's one of the reasons. I love giving people information so that they can have their lives be bettered, they can feel empowered, they can choose more. And I love working with wellness. And to me, sex and wellness are so integrated, and we have so many things that we hold in our bodies with either sexual traumas, or we've judged ourselves for being certain ways with sex. And there's a lot of hidden secret things that go on with sex that actually can affect your mental health as well as your physical health. So to me, sex and health are hugely integrated. And even when I talk to people who come to my practice for things specifically health related, it can usually turn into other directions. It can usually turn into directions where we're talking about things that actually have to do with sex quite often, relationships and different conflicts that occur that affect bodies and how to resolve them. So it's a million different ways to look at bodies and health and pleasure. And I'm just here to tap into some of them. And I have some amazing colleagues in the world who are also talking about sex and orgasmic energy. And following this show, if you just keep with us on the live today, so this is live on April 19th. If you keep with us on the live, guess what? You're actually going to find that I'm on the next show too, coming to you live with my friend Sailor. And we're going to be talking about sex toys. So 2 hours nonstop. This is fun for me. I've never actually gone 2 hours nonstop. Talking, other things, yes, but talking about, and basically talking on the radio for 2 hours. I've not done that straight. So that's just very exciting for me. So I don't know if you guys know this, there's some big news out in the world. There's big news out in the land of podcasts. And the big news in the land of podcasts is that you can now download the Apple or Android app to listen live. You can be listening to this show right now on your cell phone, on an app. So go get that app. You can get it. It's totally free. Just search on Google or on Apple Podcast or on the Apple Store. So Google Play or the Apple Store, search up Inspired Choices Network. I've downloaded the app. The sound is amazing. It's super easy to navigate. There's over 6,000 podcasts that you can find in there. And if you scroll down the list, you'll find mine, click on it, listen to it. But it's so easy to navigate. You're going to get inspired. You're going to be like, whoa, look at all these topics. And click away. You're going to find great stuff. The very last one in that list is all of the podcasts that were previous. So sometimes you hear me doing reference to different colleagues that have been on having radio shows, and I might say reference maybe Danielle Carter or Dr. Ron Jainer or different colleagues who have had shows. So if I do that and you're looking for where do I find that, you get on that app, you go to the very last category, there's a little square, the very last one, and click in there and you're going to find all of the podcasts. So I have 330 podcasts available on there. How many days, like if you listened every day, you could be listening for, think about it, 330 days. But then when you break down the hours, I was actually going to think about that. Like, how do you break down the time of how much time could you actually be listening to this nonstop, like an amazing addict, and just like listen away. Not only that, though, you can also find the videos on there too. So if you're like not wanting to put the videos on your smart TV because you don't want the whole family to see you listening to me on your smart TV, get it on your phone. You can watch the videos on there too. So you can find it on the YouTube channel. There's a little click. You can click the link to the YouTube on the app, so you can have your little secret views and nobody needs to know what you're doing. So isn't that awesome? Well, that was a sidetrack. I'm just so excited to have listeners coming in already who are on the app, and I'd love to hear feedback about what everybody thinks about the app. I think the app is super fun, and it's such an easy thing to use, and you don't have to be dropping off and whatever. You can be listening in the background, and you can have other apps that you're running at the same time. It's really convenient that way. Really well developed app. So I'm so grateful to the Inspired Choices Network team for putting that all together so that I can have more crazy talks, get lots of people listening in, increasing the pleasure on this planet. And how awesome is that? And the Apple app has a 5-star rating. And I know that the Google Store app also right now has a 5-star rating. So that's pretty sweet. And keep rating it, people. We love to hear your thoughts and ideas on what you think of this app. And of course, the more people share it, the more the word gets out there, and the more listens we get. And the more listens we get, the more motivated we are to create great content for you. I love creating content, and the more feedback I get, the more exciting it is to actually create content. So let's do this, folks. Let's talk about nipples and let's go hardcore. So what are nipples, right? They're technically, what are they? They're part of our anatomy. We have areola, and then we have these ducts that come out of them, milk ducts if you're gender female. And every one of us has sensations in the nipples, whether they're thoroughly enjoyable sensations or they're not really, don't really get much out of them sensations. There's going to be some level of feeling in the nipple. You think about this. How many, I actually watch this on occasion, like shows where guys are doing purple nurples, grabbing the nipple and twisting it. And even though guys are like, yeah, my nipples, they don't really do much for me. But if somebody purple nurples you, I guarantee you're going to squirm. You're not going to be like, yeah, that's nothing. I just got purple nurpled. Big deal. No, you are actually going to sense that. And the chances are you're either going to maybe enjoy it because maybe you really like a little roughage on those nipples, or maybe you might squirm because you're in pain. So boys, don't tell me that you don't get anything out of nipples. See what happens when somebody purple nurples you, and more. We're going to talk about so many other options because it's not always about like the delicate kisses of a nipple, or the delicate touches of a nipple. Some people like it a little rougher, but the thing is, don't assume what your partner likes. Guess what? You can communicate, even if you're deaf and you are watching the show and like reading the subtext, like the text underneath the closed captioning. You also have an ability to communicate, right? So I think of that because my god sister is deaf, and I think, what if she listens to my show? How does she listen to my show? I wonder if she gets subtext. I wonder if this is awkward for her. So there's quite a lot of, there's quite a lot of ways that we can play with nipples for sure. So definitely stick around for all the information tonight. We are going to be looking at things like, how do we utilize all of our senses with nipples? Like smell? Like what? How would you do that? Why would you do that? And we're also going to look at, I made a little list just so I could keep track, because I was like, today I was thinking, oh yeah, and then I like this, and then I like that, and then I like that. So I was like, I gotta write this down, or I'm gonna forget all the things I like and have to think about that a lot. So we're gonna talk about different temperatures on nipples. We're gonna talk about different texture play with nipples. We're gonna talk about things like nipple clamps, nipple suctions. We are gonna rock it out. We're even gonna talk about flavors and food, and like, what can you add to nipples to just ramp up the love of nipples and the fun of it? And it doesn't have to be like, they're just nipples. There they are, whatevs. No, nipples are delightful, and there's so many options. So for boys, for anybody who identifies as male or female or trans, guess what? We've all got nipples. We also all have anuses. That's something that we all have in common. Our genitalia might look different, but we've got nipples and we've got anuses. We've all got brains, and that's where the orgasms are really coming from. So if you let go of your notions of what you think your nipples would like, I invite you to think and feel today, just feel in your body what it would feel like as I talk about some of these things. Like, how does your body react? Does your body get excited? Is it like, oh yeah, I'm really into this. I'm like so turned on by the thought of having ice on my nipples or whatever. And you're like, yes. And also at the same time. So everything that super turns you on, make a little list. Because if there are things you've never thought about, just get your notepads handy in case you'd like to take some notes on what you would like to do later on with your lover or by yourself to experience some of these fabulous nipple play ideas. So get your notepad ready. Consider that some of the things I'll be mentioning, maybe things that you might have an aversion to or think you have an aversion to, because maybe you experienced it in the past, maybe it didn't work for you, but I'd like you to keep an open mind and just ask your body, would that be fun for you? Body, would that be joyful for you? Body, would that be orgasmic for you? Would that be pleasurable for you? Because your body knows stuff, even though your mind may have stuff in the way, and our minds do that. They create different scenarios, and we may even have trauma that comes up that we're reminded of. So we get like, ugh, and things really bother us, but we can work through all of this. So I'm looking at this as keep your options open, because you never know what your body really could get turned on by it until you experience it. And not every lover is the same. So one lover nibbling on your nipples will be different than another lover nibbling on your nipples. So just because one person did it and you might not have liked it doesn't mean that's going to be true for the next. So let's talk about all the millions of different ways. I'm going to talk about all the ways that I'm aware of, and I'm super excited to hear from you guys. So join us in the chat room, which you can do really easily from the app as well. You can join in the chat room. And when you do, just send some ideas. Let me know what some of those things are that you like to do with your nipples. But let me tell you, I got some ideas and we are going to run through them. So let's start with the idea that you have 5 senses. Well, you actually have more, but we're going to work with your 5 main senses, like sight. What can you do with sight and nipples? Now, this might seem crazy, but it's pretty, I know it's almost obvious. However, noticing nipples, looking at them, really looking at them, like almost investigating with curiosity. It's bizarre, but it can be one of the greatest turn-ons. It can be incredibly vulnerable to have somebody also looking at your nipples with curiosity. And you can almost like have the sense of they're developing ideas of, oh, I want to try this, or I want to try that. Just that presence of looking at the nipples can be a ridiculously cool turn on. So my question is, have you ever just really sat and enjoyed the look of nipples? If you haven't, let's start there. We're starting with that sense, the sense of looking. And when you do, what do you notice? Do you notice that maybe the areola's big or small? Is it slightly pink? Is it slightly brownish? Are there different textures? Are there different colors? Is it larger? Is it, does it come off the skin? Or does it protrude off of the breast? Or is it more flat? Look at it, investigate. Nipples are fascinating. I have never seen nipples that are the same. I've seen a lot of nipples, and I've never seen two nipples that are identical. And I think that's what makes bodies fascinating, is really I've never seen, there are so many things. You can even be twins, and I don't know, I've never really looked at twin nipples before, but I wonder if their nipples are the same, and they may be. So they may not be. So even look at that, like, wow, they're so unique. They're all so totally unique in how they feel and how they respond and what they enjoy. So look at them. Definitely have a conversation with your partner beforehand, before you do any of this. Hey, would it be fun to have some nipple play tonight? And then explain that you'd actually like to go through your senses with the nipples and see what shows up. And for some people, even having their nipples looked at will be incredibly intimidating, especially if women have had surgery and there's scars, or there's been damage, or they might have had different things going on, like genetically, where their nipples are unusual. Some women get very shy about the length of their nipples, the look of their nipples. And I want to tell you that your nipples, no matter what, they're yours, and if they're healthy, that's normal to you. So please don't judge them as weird or odd, or people are getting surgeries done to them to try and make them look like an average porno nipple. No, your nipples are unique. And yes, they're different. They're all different. So what if you could really embrace the difference of your nipples? So we're going to talk about more of like, how do we embrace that difference too today? Because, it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to do it. So there used to be a group of women on Facebook who we would check out each other's nipples, cheer each other on, but it got shut down a while ago. It was a great group. There was like new nipple shots every day. It was awesome. And it was very loving and kind group. So that was one way to get a lot of like nipple love and nipple attention and all that sort of jazz, which was beautiful. And yeah, I wish it was still there. But there are always going to be people who will admire your nipples. So it's just a matter of letting yourself receive that. So we're going to be talking about some of the other senses, what to do with them and your nipples. So we'll be talking about that. So stay tuned. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
So sweet, everybody's listening out there, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. You guys are in for some fun tonight, because not only am I on here talking about nipple play for until like 9 o'clock, so another 40 minutes of nipple play. Following this, you're going to be joining me with Sailor, and we are going to be talking on her show, Orgasmic Embodiment, all about different sex toys to have in your toy box. And I got some new ones that literally just came out from the company that I do kind of like I represent in a way through an MLM. So I have a really cool new toy that just came to my door like 3 days ago, and it's so freaking exciting. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. I will do the big reveal on Sailor's show, so I hope you come through and listen to that as well. Toys, the top toys for your toy box is what we're going to be talking about. Good stuff. So, here we are during COVID. There's lockdowns happening. Ontario has some of the strictest lockdowns in North America right now, and that's where I live. So if you're home, you might have kids at home, but heck, lock yourself in the bedroom and have some fun. Check out your nipples. Join us for the next episode with Sailor talking about sex toys. Figure out what works for you, because some of these new ones are incredibly quiet, really, really easy to get to operate as well. So there isn't a lot of battery stuff required. They're all rechargeable. They can go underwater. I'm excited to share all of this with you guys. So remember to join us on that episode as well. And if you have in the past, if you've been an avid listener of this show, you might have also heard some of the shows that I talked about, like the history of sex toys. And I find that stuff fascinating. So definitely check out some of my history shows on things like sex toys, as well as some of my other conversations about toys in your toy box as well. Because toys, they're fun. Like when you were a kid, wasn't it fun to have a bunch of different toys to play with? You might have had 4 Barbies, and that was more fun than having 1 Barbie. And maybe having 4 vibrators is more fun than just having 1. So think about that. So tonight, when we're talking about nipple play, there are toys for your nipples too. And if you were watching on the video, you might have seen me showing you some fabulously beautiful sparkly thing that I was showing you. This is like one kind of nipple clamp you can get. Right now I lost a piece. I was looking for it. So this would hurt. But this one, it actually has a little bit of a silicone tip to it. So these can also slide on and off. This goes, so your nipple goes into the nipple clamps, and then you can decipher through the body will tell you if, the different tightness that you like. Now, the ones that I showed on the video that if you're only listening in podcast land on audio, then you wouldn't see these. So what they actually look like is they are like little fake diamonds, and they look like they could be a necklace. Like I've actually attached this thing around my neck when I've done parties and wear it as a necklace. And I just think they're stunning. And it comes down in a Y shape, and it's got little crystals hanging from it. And then you can attach it to your nipples. Now you can get really creative. You can attach one to your nipple and one to your clit if you like, but today is all about nipple talk. So these are all for nipples, and these particular ones do not have a very strong pull to them. You're going to find that there are nipple clamps that are very tight, and then there are nipple clamps that are very loose. These are kind of like, I would say these are almost like a beginner style nipple clamp because they are very loose. If you don't really know if you want to even try nipple clamps or not, one of the ways to test them out to me is I test them out on my pinky finger. And in my figuring, now I was never taught this is just my thought, is that on my pinky finger, if I stick something on my pinky finger and it's way too tight and it's sore on my pinky finger or my pointer finger, then it's probably going to be really sore on my nipples, because nipples have way more feeling and sensation in them for the most part, unless there's been surgery where there's damage to the nerves or whatever. So there can be, yeah, there can be damage that actually lessens the feeling, but for the most part, we're talking about nipples that have not had surgery. They will have quite an intense feeling with certain things on them. You can even test out things like I'm showing on video right now. You can test out things like a bobby pin and just see what that feels like, because they actually have a coating on them which makes them fairly soft, which is very similar to the shape of the ones that I sell as well. And they are super fun. I think there's something incredibly beautiful about the ones that are the diamonds. They are very chic. And when you wear them, you can actually get a little tug, because they're attached in the middle with this lovely kind of a necklace. You can have a little tug. So you can do nipple play on yourself with them, which is really cool, because a lot of the other like, say, singular nipple clamps, so that's like an attached nipple clamp, they're attached to each other, but when they come singularly, you'd have to stimulate them yourself and try and pull them. And you might have to try and pull, say, 2 at once if you're trying to get sensation in both nipples. But with this, when it's attached in the middle, you could be masturbating and that toy will come right down really close. So you could actually do like dual action of holding on to the nipple clamps at the same time as masturbating, or you could use your other hand, but then you're actually able to do all of that at once. So stimulation is maximally awesome. So it's a great way to be able to stimulate your own nipples while you are masturbating, for sure. Now, if you're just doing like solo nipple play just for the heck of fun of it, there's so many things you can do anyway, right? When it's just 2 hands free for 2 nipples. But if it's 1 hand free for 2 nipples, then these kind of nipple clamps are fantastic for that, because you can actually tug both nipples at the same time and get stimulation happening, which is so fun. So we talked a little bit about right before break, we talked about senses, and I talked about looking at the nipples. And some nipples, like I was saying before, are very long, some are smaller. And part of this whole thing about looking at nipples is to gain appreciation. Like, these babies, they feed bodies, right? Like, they do stuff, and they're pleasure centers. And they're pleasure centers for all bodies. They can be. So kudos to nipples. They're pretty freaking awesome. So looking at them is number one. And we just kept it simple, being present, looking at them, noticing the color, the shape, what's going on with them, marveling in the beauty of them. I think we don't marvel in the beauty of stuff enough. We just judge the crap out of it. So if we could marvel in the beauty of nipples, how delightful is that? And then my other thought, as we move through the senses, is smell. And I know that sounds weird, but believe it or not, there is a different scent on your nipple than there is, for example, on your armpit or on your elbow. And smelling body parts can be amazing, but also the smell itself, when you go to sniff somebody's nipple, it actually will create like a cooling sensation. Or if you blow on it, like through your nose or through your mouth, also creates a cooling. It can create a warming or a cooling sensation, which is super lovely. So keep those in mind for different sense reactions as well. So you're looking at different ways. You've got your sight, you've got your smell and taste. Think about the many different things you can taste on a nipple. So if we got into this, if we just start with the very simple things that you can do for nipple play with your mouth, it would be licking. Keeping it a very gentle lick and going from there. So stimulating them with kind of like a fluttering effect back and forth. A lot of people really like that. You can stimulate them with a little sucking action with your mouth. You can do a little bit of nibbling, depending. Again, remember to have the conversation. Keep eye contact with your lover when you're doing this, so you know if they're enjoying it or not. And make sure that if this is something that is very new for them and they're uncomfortable with it, to have things like safe words, especially when we're talking like nipple clamps and things. We want to have some safe words in place. So if you don't like it, just go red. So what are these safe words? Safe words are, the simplest safe words are the same as the colors of a stoplight. So red, yellow, and green. So green is go, yellow is you're approaching my no-no zone, and red is heck no. So those are some hard, fast, easy ways to be able to follow what your partner likes and doesn't like. And you can just mention those prior, like this is the way I'm going to operate with this. I mean, you can make up your own. Those three are some of the most well-used, most well-beloved safety words out there. So using those are really quite simple. Most people will recognize them. And so we're looking at like nibbling now, right? So what can you do with your mouth? Things like nibbling, but you can also do things like putting ice cubes in your mouth and then having your mouth be cold when you put your mouth on the nipples. And that's creating a cooling sensation as well. You can also have candies in your mouth, like say cinnamon candies, and put that on your nipples, which creates a bit of a heat as well. You can get all kinds of different flavored oils and different warming lubes and things, which are a lot of fun for nipple play as well, especially things that are like flavored different lubes, not just heating ones. You don't want to put them anywhere near a vulva, for example, or inside of a vagina or on a clitoris. But what you can usually use them for is nipples, and nipples will generally really enjoy the different heating and cooling sensations that you can derive from that. So looking at ice cubes, looking at different things that you have around the home. If you're really into like hot chilies, that could be an extreme. However, it could also work, right? So you can play with that along with some really common ones that you've probably heard or seen around, which is like using things like different foods, for example, strawberries. They can also be very cooling once you've cut them. And if you rub them on nipples, they can be very cooling. Whipped cream. And I encourage you with nipples, you can pretty much include a lot of different foods. You're not going to get any severe infections from them. With chilies, though, because of the casein in them, they can really have a burning effect. So be careful with certain things that are extremely hot or different spices that are hot. And do some test areas on the body, like on an arm, before you go sticking it on a nipple. Things like mints as well are great for cooling sensations. So lots of fun ideas for the mouth. And we're going to move on from the mouth and look at some other things, but we'll do that after our commercial break. So you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back to The Pleasure Zone, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we're talking about nipples and nipple play and all the fun we can have with our sweet, sweet nipples. Now, I do want to acknowledge that there are people out there who have had surgeries and do no longer have their nipples. And yeah, so I just want to acknowledge that, yes, that's true that not everybody has nipples because some people have had them surgically removed. However, I'm hoping that that will become less and less over the years, and less breast cancer that requires that happening, or less and less tumors being removed to have that happen. So let's talk about the nipples themselves and what kind of joy they can bring us. And when we left this last commercial break, we were talking about doing some things with our mouths. We were talking about adding flavors and like warming lotions and food and hot and cold and different effects from our mouth that you can put in your mouth and then transfer to a body, or that you can eat off of nipples. So those are all super fun. So as we move down the body, I'm just like remembering senses here. So we had sight, taste, smell, listening. So listening, how do you listen to a nipple? Well, it's not really about the nipple itself so much as it is about listening to your lover and the communication, having communication with your lover. So that would be a great thing to do, right? So if your lover is, saying like, oh no, I don't really like, if they're squirming, or the worst part would be that if they don't feel comfortable communicating with you. Now that to me would be really, really sad. So if they are excited to communicate with you, then you're going to have a fabulous love life, because communication is so key to having loverships that work. And it's not really something where you think you say it once and then it's done. Communication's ongoing. So with an ongoing communication, this happens for the entire relationship, ongoing communication about being lovers, about other things as well. And during that play, there's also communication. So definitely asking things like, does this work for you? Are you enjoying this? Would you like more? Would you like it rougher? Would you like it softer? Ask. You do not have to be a know-it-all expert in your lover's body, and you don't have to be a body whisperer. You don't have to be full-on psychic. And in fact, even if you are, ask. Because even though the body might like it, the mind might be a little straying right at the time, and there might be some trauma that comes up. So ask. Would you like some of this? Would you like, maybe not constant like I'm doing right now, but, test out something. And so did you enjoy that? Would you like more of that? Would you like it rougher? Would you like it softer? My nipples are just so joyful right now, just considering options of things that can create play and fun. And even as I think about the listening, just my body gets excited knowing that I would have a lover, and that I have a lover that's willing to hear what I have to say, especially when it comes to sex. Even though my husband's practically deaf, he actually does listen on occasion. So it's life, sex, love, every bit of it becomes way more fun when you have communication that works with you and for you, between you and the people that you are communicating with. So now, once we go down to that listening part, the hearing, we're going to get to the hands. Oh, the delightful hands and what they can do. And one of the things that I wrote on the list was Tune in Tokyo. And I think some of you know what this is, but some of you might not. So Tune in Tokyo was a saying that was like, when your nipples look very hard and long and they're shooting out and poking out eyeballs, which mine do, and when they do, they kind of look like knobs on an old radio where you could tune into radio stations. So I don't know why I remember this saying, but it was going around in the 80s and 90s, and it was like, tune in Tokyo. And what do? You would rub the nipples between your thumb and your forefinger, and you just kind of rotate and rub them. And that can be freaking awesome. You can go light, you can go hard, you can get a little bit of pinch in there, you can get pull. Some people really love their nipples roughhoused like a lot, and some people like really gentle. And And how do you find out? Like, how do you know what to do? How do you become an expert lover? You ask. Yeah. So one thing you can do, and I think this is delightful fun, is just bring out a smorgasbord of options for your lover. Bring out some nipple clamps, bring out some different lotions and foods. And like, you can have nipple play, like a whole night of nipple play, a whole month nipple play, a whole, like you could have every Tuesday evening is nipple play, and whatever works for you. I think we need to have more nipple play because it seems to be that there seems to be like a lack of it. And there seems to be like even like a lack of conversation around nipples these days. So I'm not hearing about it. If I'm not hearing about it, it must not be happening, right? So nipples, let's play with them more and touching them and pinching them, and pulling them and doing different things with them. So our hands also hold things that you can use on nipples, right? So the hands do so much when it comes to nipple play. What else can our hands do? Well, you can do different things. Like you could, like, okay, so my nipples are pretty protruding. They protrude about a centimeter off of my body. After 4 years of nursing my daughter, my nipples became very interesting. But you can get something like this really cool silky kind of tie, which I pulled off of a piece of clothing of mine that I didn't need to tie on. But you can make some like little tiny knots that are like easy to adjust, and then you could just stick them on a nipple to, give a little tug, or even just tighten a little. You can tighten them up. Some other fun play, I forgot to bring these out. You can get little elastics. Now, anytime you're using anything like an elastic, though, you want to have surgical scissors ready in case something goes awry. So you can get like the tiny little elastics for when you do braids in hair. They can do some pretty cool things for nipples. You can get fuzzy ones that you can wrap around nipples too, if you like. So these are things that you likely have around your home. And isn't it weird? Like you can, grab a bobby pin and try that out. You could grab, there are nicer paper clips than the one I've got in my hand. I have a standard paper clip in my hand, but there are other ones that are softer and have softer metals. So if you are going to use something like a paper clip, make sure that the ends are not too sharp. They're not going to poke. But that's another thing, like if you can stick it on your finger, try it on your nipple, see what happens, and you can have a lot of fun with it. So I like these particularly these kind of silky ropes, not just for kind of tying nipples, but you can also do things like tickle them, right? So you could just drag this. You can create a little thing where you just wrap it around a few times, and then you have, so it'll look a bit like dangling spider legs. And then you can just tickle the nipples too with that. You can find a lot of things to tickle nipples with, whether you have feathers around the house, or if you buy a feather duster from the store, frankly, you can spruce it up and make it look like a sex toy. There are a lot of things that you'll find in the dollar store and in the hardware store that are incredibly kinky. So when you walk around, my thoughts when I walk around a dollar store are, wonder what I could do with that. and then my ideas go a little wacky and wild. So yes, things like elastics, hair elastics, paper clips, etc., bobby pins, you can get super creative for super cheap. And why I'm saying this is because so many of us can't even get out to stores right now. Chances are you've got some of this stuff lying around. But if you don't, and you want some professional level things like nipple clamps that are full on professional nipple clamps, just let me know. I will hook you up, brothers and sisters. I've got connections, and there are a couple different kinds of nipple clamps that Pure Romance carries. And by all means, go out, explore, and see which ones like work for you, and test them out and see what kind of strength you like in them. You might like them super strong, or weights hanging, or it's endless, the endless fun of nipples. So tickling them, and just in my peripheral vision, I remember that I have this very fun other thing. So we were talking a little bit about temperatures, and I talked about things that you can put in your mouth to create temperatures, and this is how you can transfer things for heat and cold with your hands as well. The very first way would be like getting an ice cube and actually rubbing it on the nipples. That's one way. That can be a little bit rough, especially if the ice cube has just come out of the freezer. It's not going to be as nice as if you let it melt a little, so it's a little more slippery, or if you put it in your mouth and you let it melt. But then I also have, I carry this really cool candle that, for those of you who can't see it, comes in a ceramic jar container that has a spout on it, and it has a soy wax inside of it that's safe when it's warmed up. It's safe for bodies, and it becomes like a massage lotion. So you can turn that on, heat it up, and you could pour that on nipples. OMG, it is freaking awesome. I love it. So if you don't even have a lover, you can just get this and pour it on yourself. And it has a really lovely, like very soft kind of baby powder scent. So you won't smell weird after. It's not like a weird just wax smell. It's got a bit of a baby scent lotion to it, or baby powder smell to it. And then, rub it in. It's going to be nice just for your skin too, is it can stay on your skin. So finding things like that can create warming and cooling sensations that you can pour on the body. Oh my God, isn't it freaking awesome? Like how turned on are your nipples right now? Just like feeling and perceiving the so many options for nipple play. Like my nipples are like, come on, lady, let's go have some fun. They're kind of demanding, and they have a different accent than I do. So crazy nipples. So, okay, so much more to talk about, and only a few more minutes left. So you are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email. info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. Just before the show totally ends, I just want to remind you guys to get the app, right? So I know I mentioned it once before, but this is such a great app, and you can take us everywhere and have such easy access by using this app. So grab that in the Apple Store or the Google Store and just download it for free. Give us a rating. Let us know what you think of it. You can listen to not only all of my shows, but all of my colleagues' shows, as well as all the podcasts from anybody who has been on the network in the past. So much information, so many podcasts, over 6,000 podcasts at your fingertips for free. Oh my Lord, isn't that amazing? So go grab it. And next time, once you've got that app, come on in, listen to our shows, join us in the chat room. We love that. We love the interaction. You can even call us, right? So you can call in and make calls and ask questions to the hosts. It's freaking awesome fun. And I love having questions. So if you do have questions, or if you have any comments or show ideas that you'd like me to address, absolutely send me a message. And where do you do that? You can connect with me on pretty much any social media platform. I'm more likely to be on Facebook, Instagram, or those are the main ones where I'll actually pick up messages on a regular basis. So you can message me there and just say who you are, what you'd like to do. And I love that in the last week, I've actually had a few people connect and go, I listened to your show and this is what was going on. And I had some things happening and I love it. Absolutely connect with me. And yes, I will work with you. So don't have a show lined up for next week that I know of, because right now I'm so excited about my show with Sailor that I was just like, I don't even know what's going to happen next week. So I will have that up for you guys ASAP, and I'll try and have a few more shows in line. We'll see what's going to go on for that. I get pretty inspired after my shows and I kind of think about that and then things come up. So we'll be doing that. Okay. So before I totally forget, so many other fun things for nipples, things like pasties, like your nipples might really like to be decorated. You can use different body safe things like stickers that you can put on the body. You could use things like, you can even paint around the nipples. You could decorate them with body paints. You can use makeup to do that as well. Cheer them up, make them fancy, beautify them. Why not? You can use body gems if you want to beautify them. Like, my body is getting so freaking excited about the idea. And like, I have a vision now in my head. Like, I want to put like crystals around my nipples and then like paint them. And then they're going to be like an artwork unto themselves. Oh, phew, good stuff. It gets weird, but when you actually follow your body and what your body really likes, you're going to find that you land in weird zone a lot, because you're like, whoa, the thing that turns me on the most is having my nipples painted. What? Fascinating. And I literally was only thinking of that because I looked down and I saw my lipstick and I thought, wouldn't that be fun to draw on my nipples with that? And then the whole idea of nipple art and, temporary tattoos, et cetera, and so much more fun comes along. It's all about getting creative, guys. Look around your house, test it out on your finger, look around your house, see what these things feel like. Because some people even go extreme, like they'll do stuff like using, well, we'll say it's extreme, but it may not be for them. Things like different tools, like actual tools, say pliers and such on nipples. Got to be careful with these things, guys. So always make sure that you are communicating so that nobody gets hurt. Some people will even use things like cheese graters or, sandpaper. So some people like it in the rough zone. Some people like it in the soft zone. Know what you like. So we talked a little bit about using some soft strings like silks, ribbons. You can even use whips on nipples too. Yeah, you can whip your nipples. So if you've got whips at home, test it out with your low grade whips and move it on up. You might even find that you like having a really thick kind of whip on your nipples and just like total turn on. So do not limit it to everything that you've ever heard or anything that you've even just heard on this show. Like, explore. This whole world of pleasure is about exploration and curiosity and wonder and testing and being like a scientist and investigator of pleasure, right? This is your thing. Is like, you're going to investigate pleasure and see what works and what's going to turn you on. So now that I have this vision of nipples in my mind and how beautiful they're going to look and my boobs are going to look freaking awesome, I think if I actually paint them up well enough, I might be able to photograph them without having them be turned off of Facebook or Instagram. So it may look artistic without being obvious, which that delights me even more. It's like the hidden mystery. You're staring at my breasts and my nipples and you didn't know it, but you are, and they're painted and they're lovely. So fun. So many ideas. And also part of that looking too. So when we were talking about the visual and looking at the nipples, so painting them could work for that too, and looking at them, photographing them can be fun too. Think about all the different ways you can use your senses with your nipples, because there are so many different ways. There are absolutely nothing stopping you from trying these things out, other than, if your lover's not into it, respect that. And if you're not into that, I hope your lover would respect you as well. So Remember, number one, communication. Don't forget, orgasms are in your brain. Look around your house to look for different things that you can use that are totally free that you've already got. If you can't find anything you like, contact me through milicajelenic.com and we will chat and get your pleasure ramped up and going. And remember to stay with us for the next show with Sailor. It's going to be good. Stay tuned in and turned on.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.